All right, the US Open golf tournament is just around the corner, and that's really big news going into this episode. The NBA finals are heating up. The Stanley Cup finals are here. This is a huge episode of Third and Five.
Soundstripe.
All right, Third and Five. Coming to you again from Brooklyn. Just me, Simon Hinton, and James Thwaites in the chair today. Dave Rice is taking a day off, which is a shame, really. The resident golfer on this podcast is missing the episode where we're going to talk quite a bit of golf, I think. But
and you know what? Like, a few words get thrown around: lazy, inconsiderate, selfish. All words I would use for him. So not surprising either. Dave just letting the team down again. Absolute, not surprising though, coming from a Dallas Cowboys fan. So
correct. Not a team player, right? It's real disappointing, but we'll soldier on. We've got a really exciting episode today. Michael Campbell, 2005 US Open champion, great Kiwi out of Titahi Bay in Wellington. He's going to join us on the show for a good half an hour out of Spain, where he lives now and runs his golf academy. So we're going to talk about that, and we'll have a bit of other stuff to talk about as well. But how have you been, Thwaites?
I've been good, mate. It's been an interesting last week. I kind of thought sports was slowing down, but we've had a lot on. We've obviously had the Tampa Bay Lightning knock out the New York Rangers to go to the Stanley Cup final. So game 1 and game 2, they will be in Colorado at Ball Arena against the Colorado Avalanche. We've got, now the Celtics dropping another game. So the Golden State Warriors are knocking on the doorstep. Plus, we had those World Cup qualifiers. Absolute heartbreak for New Zealand. We'll get there in a minute. But Australia obviously got past Peru behind a very angry, I don't know, how would you describe angry performance from the Australian goalkeeper? Just looked a bit
real weird. Like,
a bit intense.
I guess it worked in the end. Like I don't know. I mean, look up the video if you haven't seen it already. But his strategy was to just dance around the goal line and goal and do his best to put things off. I actually read a tweet that how goalies will often put their drink bottle in the back of the net. Apparently, the Peruvian goalkeeper on the outside of his drink bottle had like instructions for the penalty shootout taped to his drink bottle. And then Redmayne, the Australian keeper, after the first penalty, just picked up the drink bottle and hifted it into the stands.
That is outstanding.
Which I don't think got picked up by the cameras. So I don't know if I can verify the story, but it was doing the rounds on Twitter. But it would also fit in line with the antics he was coming up with on the goal line. But obviously he got the winning save and Australia go to the World Cup. So it all worked out in the end. But yeah, I mean, the New Zealand game going down 1-0 to Costa Rica was just so disappointing because, we were talking about it as the game was going on. New Zealand looked pretty good and probably the better side, I think, for much of that match. And would,
obviously the better side. They had more possession, more shots on goal, like more corners. Like they looked dominant that entire game. It was just, unfortunately, and like I feel like this is a very easy thing to do nowadays with professional sport, is blame the refs. But
well, they have themselves to blame a little bit because I was lucky enough to talk to Ryan Nelson last week, who's the ex-All Whites captain, and he was saying that in these games where you're the underdog, and New Zealand football are often the underdogs, they can sometimes be at risk of going into games not realizing they're as good as the other team and finding that out, midway through the game, and sometimes it's too late. And I think that kind of happened. Like we saw the first 10 minutes, Costa Rica were just all over New Zealand. And then we got back into the match and then really didn't, relinquish the dominance for the rest of the match. Problem is we conceded in those first 10 minutes and couldn't find the back of the net. So that was disappointing. Sloppy goal to concede, but you're right. I mean, the refs just had a blowout. The All Whites get the ball on the back of the net and he's found a pretty iffy foul to call it back for, and then that red card was pretty questionable, I think, as well. Not a great challenge from Barbarouses, but
it wasn't a great challenge. I can live and die with that red card. That disallowed goal felt a bit weird to me, to be honest. And also, like, I felt like the refereeing for that game just wasn't consistent at all. And I get it's hard to do for 90 minutes in a football field where, it's 30 degrees out there or 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Everyone's exhausted the entire game. But, you've got to be more consistent on that world stage. FIFA have really dropped the ball with that. I will say I am really excited about that football team for the next few years. It felt like they didn't give up the entire game. I mean, Wood just looked absolutely tapped by the end of the game, but he's still giving it his all.
And I mean, you're spot on about the ref. Like even the red card, there was literally a challenge like 5 minutes later from not a Peruvian, that was 4 years ago, Costa Rican on an all white.
The elbow in the head?
No, it was a studs to the ankle challenge, but I think I got a yellow card, but if Barbarouses was a red, I feel like that should have been a red. But
one of the things that it's always interesting that I find when I watch New Zealand football is the difference between the way New Zealanders play it and the way European and South Americans play it, from the point of view that obviously, like, in the European game and South American game, you fall over, you try get that penalty and stuff like that. The New Zealand football players were obviously tougher, but they kind of played through a lot of that. Like when that, I can't remember who it was, it might have been Greaves or someone, caught an elbow in the side of the face. He didn't milk it enough. He just kind of like walked it off. And in any other scenario, that would have been a straight yellow for, the player that did that. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that has to creep into the game. But yeah, I mean, heads up to the All Whites. They did absolutely fantastic. And can't wait to see.
You're spot on. The future's so bright for them. I mean, you talk about these guys like Grieve and Garbutt and plenty of others. They're all early 20s, teenagers. Even Wood, Wood's getting on, but he's the sort of striker that can play quite late into his 30s, and he'll be there in the next 4 years as well, probably as captain. I think the future's very, very bright, and obviously I think in 2026 they'll get a full spot out of Oceania. So they should be at the 2026 World Cup in America, which would be very nice. So we'll look forward to that. But let's rip into the podcast and revisit some other Kiwi, who did wonderful things on the world stage some 17 years ago. Michael Campbell at the 2005 US Open, one of New Zealand's great sporting moments, I think, in the US Open coming up this weekend with Ryan Fox and Danny Lee, the two Kiwi representatives there. So we recorded this a few hours ago with Michael. He's in Spain. So let's roll the tape on our interview with Michael Campbell. Okay, Michael Campbell, thanks so much for coming on Third and Five. Really appreciate you tuning in from Spain. So for those that aren't aware, what are you up to at the moment?
I've been here now for like probably 10 years. I moved from England to here because of the weather, and I've been here since 2013, and then I retired from golf soon after, and then I decided to open up my golf academy, which I did. I still got it here in southern Spain in Marbella, and it's been a great platform for me, or vehicle for me, to share my knowledge and experiences with these young kids, and it's been very enjoyable to give back to the game that's given me so much over my time. So I'm pretty much paying it forward, and because I had a lot of support when I was growing up in New Zealand, and financially, and also coaching and stuff like that. So it's just nice to repay back the game that's given me a lot in my life.
How special is it to be able to help kids, not only develop their skills, but also just develop a love for the game that you've, has been such a big part of your life?
Yeah, well, I think I feel the responsibility. I have to, because I know it takes a lot of time, effort, a lot of work ethic. It's just a grind at sometimes, and then when you have success, it's very rewarding. And I know that in any career, especially in golf, there's always ups and downs, and I've been through that as well. And it's all better just sticking to your processes and believing you can do it. It's a lot of obviously mental fortitude as well. There's different things you got to work on with your nutrition, now with fitness, with mentally and your golf swing. There's so many different aspects in golf that's I find very interesting. And one thing that I did from day one really is work on my fitness and worked on. I love reading books, psychology books, and so it really helped me to be the golfer that I was.
Nice, and obviously US Open's starting this week, and so I mean, for me personally, I get flashbacks to watching in 2005 that brilliant day down in Pinehurst, North Carolina. I will say I was in school at the time, and I was just a wee fella, and I think it was one of those rare moments in New Zealand sport where the whole nation just sort of stops to watch, and you had the whole nation watching you and cheering for you. So that was pretty awesome and sort of stands out for me. But for you, when the US Open comes around each year, do you get flashbacks to that and sort of sit down and remember things a bit?
Oh, of course, because I do a lot of things like this, which is I don't mind it at all. It's my busiest week of the year, really. If you think about it, I've done a lot of podcasts, interviews on TVs about my experiences and stuff like that, which is absolutely fine. It's all part of the package. But yeah, of course, the memories start flooding back, and I see stuff on TV with my win and through the social media platform, a lot of reposting of me winning again, and the emotion I every time I see it, it's quite funny. Every time I see a video of me holding that putt on the last hole, it comes back very, very quickly, and yeah, I mean, it's just incredible how I achieved that goal. My ambition was to win a major, and to beat one of the best players in the world head to head, 9 holes to play in the major is pretty even more special. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that will never ever go away. I'm in the US Open golf record books, and my name will be on that trophy forever.
Well, what stands out on that final day? You had a Tiger Woods at the top of his game, breathing down your neck. I read earlier that I think you'd missed 5 cuts that year leading up to the US Open. I think you were just a qualifier as well. So what was like your frame of mind where you, as you walked down the fairway on the 17th, 18th hole with one of the best golfers of all time, trying to chase you down for one of the biggest prizes in golf?
I felt I deserved it. That's a strange word to use or describe. I worked hard for it. You got to understand that it was 35 years in the making, since I turned pro when I was 21, 22, I think it was. So it's a long, long process, but it's all about just self-belief, and it's all about if you're willing enough to dedicate your life to golf, special things can happen. And that day, things just fell my way. As you said before, I started the year, I missed 5 cuts in a row, so I went to see my coach for 5 weeks, and I was just, my hands were bleeding. I was practicing 10 hours a day, and we found what I call a golden nugget, which helped me to gain more confidence in my swing and my putting, everything else, and everything fell into place. I believe in fate. I'll give you one perfect example. It was the first time ever that the USGA had qualifying outside America, and they had it 45 minutes from my house, the golf course. So I jumped in my car and just drove there, and on the last hole, we knew we were standing, and I played with this guy called Steve Webster. We're both 3 under playing the last hole, and I hit it to 10 feet. Here's the 12 feet from the hole on a par 4 for 2. I had to move my marker because I was right on his line, and then he aimed right edge and missed it. The putt went straight, so I replaced my marker, put the ball down, aimed straight, and went in. So there you go, and I qualified just. I think I was the last person to qualify that putt. If that putt missed, I would have not even gone to. I wouldn't have qualified. So, things happen for a reason, and that's one perfect example. What I just told you about, seeing Steve Webster's putt first, because I would have done exactly the same thing. I would have aimed right edge, but I decided to change my line and went in, and the rest is history.
That's bloody awesome. That's a great story. Did you have any good conversations with Tiger after that win, and any good sort of like little anecdotes from afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, well, the first thing after hugging Sponge, my caddy, Steve Williams was there, because obviously Steve Williams worked for Tiger, and he gave me a big, huge hug and said the whole country will be watching right now, Michael, and they'll be very proud of you. So that was nice words from Steve, because obviously, his boss was obviously Tiger, and they were trying to beat me, and I managed to beat him, and it was nice for Steve to say that to me. And then I remember after starting my card, I decided to go to the basin and wash my face and clear my head, and I was about to face the golfing media outside, and I had this flush, and I see Tiger walk out, and he's next to me in the next basin washing his face, and didn't say much to me. I could see that he was pretty much disappointed still. He's still in the moment of losing, and he walked away. I mean, we were pretty good mates. So, and then he came around and tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Well done, Michael." But the greatest gesture that he gave me was normally on the prize giving, you only have the winner, right? But he was there with me, next to me at the prize giving. So to me, that paid a lot of respect. When you have a lot of respect from your peers, that means a lot. So for him to be there with me on the prize giving was something to remember forever.
So one of my coolest experiences, Michael, being in the US for just over the last 4 years, was going out to the USGA headquarters in New Jersey and seeing the trophies displayed in their entranceway and seeing your name engraved on that trophy. So that was really cool to see. But in a couple of your other interviews, I've heard you talk about belief a lot, and I've heard you talk about Bruce Lee as well. Can you talk to me a bit about kind of what motivates you and how important that belief is to you, and how it gets you through these games and probably life in general?
Well, I believe that everyone on this planet has a talent somewhere within them. And I was born to play golf. That's how I believe. The reason why I'm here right now, talk to you, because I think it's you could say maybe it was planned for me. I don't know. It's hard to explain that feeling. But I remember many times I grew up on the farm in Hara, where I was born, and spent a lot of time with my grandmother, who was very influential in my life. She guided me through spiritually. She was known as the local witch, and a good term. In other words, people used to come to her with illnesses, and she used to go to a herb garden and pick a few herbs and come back and make them tea with that herb and speak to them about things. So she was very philosophical. And I remember at the age of 10 years old, she used to smoke a lot. So I used to help her make her own cigarettes, rollies, they call it. And so I'd sit there for hours and just talk about life, myself and my grandmother. And she said to me when I was 10 years old, maybe 11 years old, that Michael, that you are going to be someone very special in this world. And of course, I didn't know what she was talking about. Not one thing. I mean, I'm thinking, I'm 10, 11 years old. I didn't even play golf then. Well, maybe I did. Maybe I played with my dad a couple of times, but golf wasn't even on the radar when she mentioned that to me. And now I understand what she was talking about. She had this vision, I don't know if you call it, vision of me making the world a better place and stuff like that. So that's how it all started. And then, won the US Open. Now I understand her, what she was talking about. So I remember when I hold that putt on the last hole and I raised my arms towards the heavens, I was thanking her for her guidance. So that was a cool thing, that she instilled all that amazing energy, positivity, and that's why I'm really into psychology. Read a lot of books about. You mentioned the Bruce Lee book. That's one thing I got from that was Bruce Lee talks about how your energy is like water. If it's frozen, it doesn't flow through your body. If it's not frozen, and the energy will go through your body a lot more easier. So I was thinking about that as well. I was thinking about other things because, when you're playing against Tiger with 9 holes to play, we've got a 1-shot lead. You need all your mental bits or toolbox full of mental stuff in there to use, and I used every single one of them. It's just one of those things you got to, really just focus on the mental side of it, because physically I was playing well, I was putting well, but it was more the mental side that I knew I need to work on. And I had a chance to win the Open back in '95. I was leading after 3 rounds by 3 shots and lost by 1 shot. But to me, that was a learning curve. I looked at it as a positive thing because I knew I wasn't strong mentally enough to win. So that's when I got into my psychology a lot. With I knew I needed something to help me to win a major. So that was one interest of reading a lot of books.
No, that's awesome. Obviously, like with youngsters and athletes coming up nowadays, there's obviously a lot of sports science, and psychology is obviously one that is super important. Is it something that you talk through at your golf academy as well, and kind of talk about the benefits to people going through that golf academy in Spain?
Oh yeah, I mean it's more of it's a full package. It's not about just hitting golf balls. It's about lifestyle. It's about what you want. What's your why? They say, what's your why? And my why when I was growing up in New Zealand is to prove to the world that Māori can play golf. That was my why. And we can play rugby and rugby league and other sports and netball and stuff like that, but not many Māori professional golfers out there were there back in the 80s and 90s. So I broke the mold, you could say, and just I think having that powerful why kept me motivated, kept me from just going there and giving my best and just believing in myself.
And I've got a question from Dave, who obviously can't get on today. He's a big fan though, and one of his questions were, you're a part of the victorious '92 Eisenhower Trophy team for golf amateurs. And at the time, did it feel like a big deal? And did you guys appreciate the magnitude of the achievement?
Not really, because it was the World Championships and the first time that New Zealand won the event, the Eisenhower Trophy. And I remember obviously my other 3 teammates, Philip Tararangi and Grant Moorhead and Stephen Scarhill. And we're just kids just having fun. I think I was 19, 20 when we won. We're out there in the big wide world, and we're in Canada, Vancouver. I was so excited going to Vancouver and just play golf. And I remember playing with the American team in the last round, and we were miles behind. I think we were like 12 shots behind with 1 round to go, and we managed to play some wonderful golf, all 4 of us, and we won it and didn't think much of it. And then we got back home and we thought, "Whoa, okay, there's a huge impact here." It was a massive impact that, hey, maybe that, because obviously we had Bob Charles and Frank Noblo and Greg Turner were playing then, and Simon Owen. They're doing great as well on around the world. But as an amateur, to be the first team from New Zealand to win the Eisenhower was a huge, impactful situation. And we didn't realize that what we did until we got home, and it was a little bit crazy. So it was fun.
So I got a question after the 2005 wins. Did you have like an extravagant purchase in mind as you're doing this? Like, I know, like when I'm pushing myself, I'm always giving myself motivation. I'm like, this is going to get me a new tennis racket or whatever. I just got to keep pushing through. Like, did you have anything that was pushing you through? And was there something that you were like, hey, if I do this, I'm going to treat myself?
It's funny you should mention that. Yeah, there's a great story behind that. Well, I've always been a goal setter. It could be, with golf related kind of things, like, hit 10 out of 14 fairways, or break 30 putts per round, or do an extra 5 sit-ups, or run an extra 5-10 mile, I don't know, whatever it's going to be. Every day I had a goal. And funny enough, I was playing pretty well going into the US Open. And I remember I was flying from London. I was living in London at the time, flying to America. And I used to have a little diary or Filofax. And so I wrote down all my processes I had to do that week, my swing, my putting, that sort of stuff. I still got it, actually. It's quite funny. And at the end of the things I wrote down, I always write down goal and in capital letters. And my goal that week, I said to myself, if I make top 10, I'll buy a secondhand Porsche, Carrera 2 Porsche, secondhand, about 20,000 pounds, and about 25,000 miles on the clock. So I had this vision of actually buying a Porsche if I reach top 10. Well, after 2 rounds, I'm like 5th or something. So I went from a secondhand Porsche to a brand new Porsche. So, because I think it's important to change your goals, because if you just settle with one goal, it's important you've got to have the ability to change if you're achieving your goal very easily. And then after the 3rd round, I said, okay, I'm going to upgrade it to a Carrera GTS. I was visualizing the color of the car, the brake capillars, the interior, the exhaust pipes, things like that. And actually on my golf ball, because obviously everyone uses the same kind of golf ball, so you need your own personal marking. So I wrote down 911 on my golf ball as my marking, which is quite a funny story. And then even during the last round, people probably don't believe me I'm saying this, but I did. I was visualizing my Porsche, and obviously I always believe you got to play a game within the game, and the smaller picture was my Porsche, and obviously the bigger picture was the US Open, but I was focusing on my Porsche. So as soon as I won, I got back, and I think it was a Tuesday, because Monday wasn't out. I had to go to New York and do a couple of interviews on CNN and all the major news TV stations, and done David Letterman and everyone kind of thing. And then Tuesday I got back, and we got to the airport, and my wife at the time picked me up. I said, drive me straight to the Porsche dealership. So that's what I did. Yeah, so I got on about 9:30 in the morning and straight there, and ordered the car.
It's pretty awesome.
It's amazing. How was that first drive in the Porsche? I bet you that would have felt incredible.
Yeah, it was like deserving. I deserve this. This is my present to myself.
For a young kid kind of getting involved in golf around the world, what's a piece of advice that you'd have for them? And what kind of, looking back, something you wish Michael Campbell in today told Michael Campbell at 13, 15,
Well, the first thing is making a lot of sacrifices. Excuse me. I remember the first time I left New Zealand to play on the European tour when I was 22 or 21, I think it was. I was thinking to myself, what have I done here? And is this what I want to do? I'll be spending more time away from my parents. I won't be living in New Zealand anymore. So you got to look at those sort of factors. It's a long answer, but there's loads of things. And I think what if I told myself when I was younger to change my routine or what I did, not much really, because I pretty much dedicated my whole life to golf for the last 30 something years, and it's hard. It's hard. Trust me, it's hard to play this sport because there's so many variables. And yes, you're going to play great one week or one day or 2 days, and then play crap the next day or next month. It's just the way it is. And it's all about finding that balance, I think, in life. I love the game. It's my passion. But I had a very balanced life in the sense of my family was very, very important. I think you see a lot of young kids who peak too soon, burn out. I see that all the time now. They graduate at 14, 15 years old and then disappear, vanish, because they didn't experience, being a teenager. They were out there practicing 10 hours a day, you know, homeschooling and playing these tournaments, traveling the world and playing these tournaments around the world. And all of a sudden, you know, turn 17, 18, or even 20 years old, they go, that's enough. So I think it's important that, because I've had a lot of different sports when I was growing up in New Zealand, 5 different sports, and that taught me a lot of things too. Teamwork. I played rugby and softball and basketball, so teamwork was very, very important. I knew how important it was. And I think when you have a child that's so young, so good, too soon, just playing one sport, that's where I think it's going to falter, because they just say to themselves, I've had enough. So I think a balanced life is very, very important.
So over your time on Earth, you have achieved so much, and you're obviously giving back to the youth. You spend a lot of time, as you said, you know, jumping on podcasts and doing interviews and reflecting on you know, your wins and your career. What's next for you? Is there anything else that you feel like you want to do moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, currently right now I'm actually started playing again, which is nice, because I gave up back in 2013, and then I turned 50, and then COVID hit, so I didn't play much golf at all for 2 years. But now this year I'm playing pretty much full time on the seniors tour. So that's one thing I missed in my life during those 8 years or 10 years of not playing, is competing, because I love competing. You ask anyone if I'm playing in cards or backgammon or chess, I want to beat them. It doesn't matter what sport. It's all about winning, you know. So that's one thing I missed. And now that I'm playing a few events now, it's been nice to see all my buddies I've played against for so many years. And so I'm 53 years old now, and I'm enjoying that aspect of my life. It's a new chapter in my life, which has been very, very enjoyable. The only thing I don't like right now is traveling. That's one thing that bugged me even when I was playing, traveling a lot, you know, because we used to live in Australia as well. I used to travel from Australia to Europe, and that's what Foxy's doing right now. It's pretty tough travel with his family, especially with a young kid as well on board. So I understand that, how traveling can get to you and it can wear you down. But I just love competing. I love being out there and playing golf and playing to my best ability right now. So yeah, that's one thing that I've really enjoyed, is get back on that horse again. That's been fun.
And one of the listeners wanted us to ask you this question: do you have any hidden gem golf courses that you just absolutely love in New Zealand, that kind of stick out to you?
Well, for me, Taraiti, which is about an hour north of Auckland, is just an absolute. It's just amazing. I love that place. And Parapara Umu, where I used to play a lot, which is about half an hour north of Wellington. Parapara Umu is one of my favourite courses, links golf course. But you know, Kauri Cliffs, Cape Kidnappers, and there's so many other gems in New Zealand which I love playing. Go back home playing them when I can, and it's good to see that the game of golf now is growing back home in New Zealand. I remember when I won the US Open, I said to my managers at the time, I said, I want to go back home for 10 days. And they're looking through my schedule and they go, Michael, this is impossible. I said, I don't care, make it happen. They go, why? I said, because I want to share my success with my people and motivate young kids to, you know, not to play golf, but just to say to them, hey, you know, if I can do it, so can you. It's one of those. It's one thing I said in my speech, is that, you know, if you've got the dedication and the willingness and also the attitude, you know, anything's possible. So I went back home for 10 days and we had a ticky tape parade and met the Prime Minister, Helen Clark, at the time. And it was a whirlwind trip, but it was so worth it. I went to different schools around different parts of Auckland and down to Queenstown and Wellington as well. Just to, it wasn't for me. I don't need any PR stuff. You know, it's the last thing I wanted, because I'm quite shy actually. But I wanted just to motivate and change people's attitudes towards golf a little bit, and also to get the young kids to, inspire them. Really, that's the main reason I went back home for those 10 days.
That's awesome, and certainly created some cool memories for a lot of kids that would have gone on to play golf, for sure. Hey, Michael, just before we wrap this up, obviously, just circling back to the US Open this weekend, there's a couple of Kiwis in the field, Foxy, as you mentioned, and Danny Lee. With Foxy in particular, he's coming in probably career best form, I would say. He's 59th in the world. He's had some really good results lately. A, do you have much to do with him, and do you talk to him at all? And B, how much easier is it, I guess, to play golf when you're in good form? Does the whole game just feel a lot more simpler in those moments?
Absolutely. Well, to answer your first question, I mean, I'll play with Foxy a few times over here in Europe, and we have banter. It's more. Look, he asked me a few things about chipping and short game stuff, but he's fine with his long game. Obviously, he's a very powerful unit, Foxy. But I just told him a few different things around the greens, because I think you got to realize that, especially in US Opens and majors, it makes it a little bit tougher around the greens. It's one thing I did. My coach, Jonathan Yarwood, back in 2002, 2003, I think it was, I said to him, my game's in good shape, but I think I need to work on my short game more. So what we did for 6 months was to work on short game and different shots, different spins, different heights, you name it. So that's one thing that I wanted to, because sometimes I saw Foxy as too one-dimensional. You've got to have 3 different options. When you go a certain particular chip, you've got to look at 3 different options how to play that chip with the same result. So I try to teach him that a little bit, but he's doing great. He's got that long putter now. We're anchoring on his left arm. He's obviously playing fantastic golf right now, which is wonderful. It's really, really good right now, and I'm wishing him the best. And I think also, if you think about it, I'm not saying it's maybe my help, I don't know, but to know that his fellow countryman won a major, maybe it could be a possibility that he could believe that too. I hope he does, because he's got the ability to win a major. But I remember talking to Podrick Harrington, and Podrick and I were very good friends. And when he won his 3 majors, we're sitting down having dinner somewhere in a restaurant in America somewhere, and because we were quite open about things. And he said, Michael, the reason why I thought I could win majors, because you did. I said, what do you mean by that, Podrick? He goes, well, as simple as this, because he's beaten me as much as I've beaten him. So who's thinking mentally to himself, if Michael Campbell can do it, so can I. So that was a massive compliment to me. So this is what I'll translate the story to Foxy, is that if he sees me winning majors and friends of his win majors, he probably is thinking the same thing. So hopefully that will trigger his mind and believe that he can do it one day.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great to see another Kiwi lift a major championship? And certainly, Foxy's in pretty awesome form. So we'll see what happens there. But do you have just before we do go, do you have a prediction for the tournament?
Well, I think you got to go on form. I mean, Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas. These guys are playing some wonderful golf right now. So you have to go with those guys. I mean, I was an outsider when I won the US Open. I think it was 80th in the world when I won, 86th in the world when I won US Open in 2005. But it's a true test of golf, especially the US Open. It's just at all the majors, it's the hardest to win. I'm not saying it because I won it. You ask any golfers that have played majors. I've played in 55 majors, and US Open's the toughest, and then maybe the Open, the British Open. Why? Because the golf courses are set up so tough, so tough, on the brink of being unplayable, and on a knife's edge between unplayable and playable. And then so that's why I think the premium this week for the guys is to miss the rough. I recall when I won, I hit average 10 I think 10 fairways out of 14, which is a lot. And if you drive the ball great, which Rory does, he's one of the best drivers of the golf ball ever. That's more than half the golf course gone. And you hit the fairway, that's even better. So I think driving is a premium, and also putting. I mean, you've got to, if you hit it to 10 feet for 18 holes and miss every putt, that's no good. You've got to putt well and drive fantastically this week.
Awesome. Hey, Michael, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate you giving us some of your time and insights and stories. It's you're a true Kiwi legend. So
thank you. Thank you very much.
So much, man. You're the man.
Okay, man. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so awesome. Really cool to chat with Michael Campbell. He's, as I touched on in the interview, one of those, when he won that US Open, it was one of those moments where I felt like everyone sort of remembers where they were watching that. It was probably a top three, at least top five sporting moment in New Zealand for me. So awesome to talk to him.
What a cool guy as well. And, just absolute champion from the fact that, like, he was just so happy to stop and chat and talk about things. And, he's a passionate guy about golf. It's interesting to see his story, obviously growing up in Haldor, and then going through the various steps to that US Open, and then even beyond what he's doing with that golfing academy in Spain. So awesome guy. I really enjoyed that chat with him.
Yeah, super awesome, and it's going to be fun to follow the US Open this weekend, and hopefully we can have some Kiwi success again there.
I do regret not asking what I asked Ryan Fox, and like a couple of people gave me shit.
Hitting spectators?
Yeah, hitting spectators. I wanted to ask it, I just couldn't do it. Because like after we did that Ryan Fox interview, someone came and said to me, they're like, Spatey, I can't believe the first question that came out of your mouth to someone that is absolutely killing it on the international stage was, have you hit spectators? So
I think he loved it. He loved it. It really, because we did a couple of leading questions about his form and stuff, and I think that kind of lightened the mood and showed that we're all after we're not taking ourselves too seriously on this podcast, evidently. All right, let's rip into the remainder of our topics now and talk the big sports news in America at the moment. The NBA Finals. The Golden State Warriors pulling out a huge win to go 3-2 up, going back to Boston tomorrow night, Thursday US time, Friday New Zealand time, for Game 6 there. I mean, we've sort of, gone back and forth about who we think is going to win in this series, but I think and we'll talk a little bit about that, but I think one of the interesting things for this series is who would be your finals MVP at the moment? I guess your front runner for that. Obviously, it sort of depends on who comes out as the winner of the series. But for me, I'm looking at, Steph Curry's been brilliant at times this series, but also had an 0 for 9 from deep in Game 5 and had a pretty bad display. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the finals MVP situation after 5 games.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think watching the last game, the one stat that just absolutely blew my mind, Steph Curry has shot a consecutive 3-pointer, like at least one 3-pointer in the last 233 games he's played. It was the first time he has not done that in 233 games, which is just absolutely fucking incredible.
Jeez. Yeah, it's just remarkable.
It was a weird performance, like just kind of recapping slightly on Game 5. It was a real weird game from the Celtics. Just nothing was happening off their bench. White, who is usually pretty reliable, played 21 minutes, had 1 point. Grant Williams, 16 minutes, 3 points. So that was kind of obviously pretty disappointing to see. Tatum shot pretty well considering. He got 10 rebounds. The starting 5 was all right. Robert Williams probably didn't perform as well as he should. But yeah, it's just that bench that let them down. They couldn't really, afford to keep, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Jason Tatum off the court for long at all. And they played huge minutes. So that kind of was pretty disappointing for them. And it's going to be hard now, I think, for that Celtics team to beat that Warriors team in 2 straight games. Obviously, it can happen, but we've got Game 6 coming up, which means we get Game 6 Klay Thompson, which is going to be huge. But I think MVP front runners at this point, it's definitely still Steph Curry for me. It's probably the last trophy he needs out of the NBA. He'll get Finals MVP for sure. The only other person
is Andrew Wiggins an outside chance?
I don't think so. If he was
more
consistent,
that'd be.
Yeah, if he was more consistent, definitely. I don't think he's going to play exactly how he did, at Game 5, where he played 43 minutes, which is just again insane. 13 rebounds and 26 points, which is just absolutely incredible. He also got a block as well. He's been pretty consistent over the finals with getting these double doubles and getting a couple of offensive boards and getting some blocks in there. So it's been really good to see. Good on him. And
and what a time to come up with a performance like that when Curry's having an off night. But I kind of agree. I just don't know if there's going to be room for a performance like that, because I do think Curry is going to be back to a lot closer to his best, and a lot of the scoring will go through him. But certainly he's been a huge asset for that team.
Yeah, and kind of going back to the Western Conference Finals, I still think Looney should have got that MVP award for the Western Conference Finals. But yeah, Curry putting up over 40 points the other night, I think Game 4, and just having such a dominant performance there. I just think, after that, he's just, it was already his. He's just kind of, rubber stamped it and put it in the post.
So are we thinking it's the Warriors rounding out the series in Boston tomorrow night? I'm leaning that way now. I was pretty hot on Boston earlier on, but I think that the way they got the job done, and to be honest, watching Boston down the stretch as well, they just looked mentally shattered as well. Tatum just didn't look there for the last few minutes, and I think it's going to be quite hard for them to get up and rally in this series. And I can see the Warriors going and getting the job done in 6.
Yeah, look, I think the Celtics are definitely competitors, obviously, and they wouldn't be in the position that they're in without it. And they wouldn't have the Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart, if they weren't absolutely going to fight this and take it to the brink. It's just they just need more out of their bench. Unfortunately, these guys were playing huge minutes, like we talked about before. They had 3 players with over 40 minutes, which is insane. That's like what was going on with the Brooklyn Nets when they were having their massive injury problems. And when you're going up against a Warriors team where you've got Jordan Poole coming off the bench, you've got Looney coming off the bench, and others who can go in and perform key roles and do them at an excellent level, and you're going to have problems. So Boston obviously has a bit of advantage, I think, going back to the TD Garden and having Game 6 there. Maybe it goes to Game 7, but I just think with that Warriors team, they'll be feeling a lot of confidence now. Steph Curry is not going to have another game like that where he just doesn't hit a 3-pointer, and Draymond Green will be especially fired up as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Well, as one final series wraps up, another one is getting underway tonight. In fact, so some good afternoon watching if you're in New Zealand. The Tampa Bay Lightning are in Denver to take on the Colorado Avalanche in the first game of the Stanley Cup final. Thwaites, you're driving cross country to Denver next week, and you'll be in town for one of these games. And as a Colorado Avalanche fan, how are you feeling?
I'm pretty excited. Yeah, we're driving on Friday, so we're driving just a casual 30 hours across the country with our 15 pounds, 6 kilo, half Chihuahua, half Dachshund called Archie. So we're going to do that cross country trip. We're going to spend some time out in Colorado with the family, and Game 5 is on the cards. My wife is originally from Colorado. Her dad's a big Avs fan, so they're going to Game 5. So I'm pretty pumped for them. I'll be at home dog sitting Archie, but I'm excited for them to go there. And, what a cool series and what a cool place to be. It's going to be an exciting matchup as well. The Avs going in, they're extremely fast. They're scoring lots of goals. They're having lots of shots on goals, and they're going up against a very defensive team and a counter-attacking team in the Tampa Bay Lightning. So it's going to be a cracker series. I'm really looking forward to it. And are you planning on watching a whole bunch of games as well, Si? Have I managed to convince you to get behind the Avs?
Mate, I was definitely behind the Rangers going into, but I've really gotten into the Stanley Cup finals over the past few weeks and the playoffs, and I don't know if I'll be able to watch regular season matches, but I do find the playoff games are so exciting because I think teams are never that far away from going on a little bit of a run and turning things around, particularly with power plays and what have you. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching it tonight and for the remainder of this series. And as you say, it's like one of the top defensive teams against one of the top offensive teams, which I think bodes really well for a really exciting series. I think, early on in the Rangers series, as the Avalanche were putting away Edmonton, I tended to think the Avalanche were overwhelming favourites to go on and win the whole thing. But the way Tampa Bay played the back half of the series against the Rangers and really looked quite dominant and a lot more like a two-time defending champions, I think maybe it's a bit more even. And certainly I'm not, no gospel on ice hockey after 2 or 3 weeks of watching, but I do think Tampa Bay will pose a little bit more of a threat than maybe our first thought going into the series. So I think it's probably going to go the distance, 6, 7, probably at least 6 games for sure.
I'm hoping it's 5. I hope
you get it. You just want, yeah, and that's fair enough. So you get to see the Stanley Cup lifted in Denver.
Yeah, I hope it's 5. I think it's going to be 6. But Vasilevsky, who's the goaltender for Tampa Bay Lightning, is just absolutely lights out. He's one of the greatest goaltenders in NFL history. So he's got a tough assignment going into this series. But the Tampa Bay are 2-time champs. They could potentially do the three-peat by winning the Avs. I don't think it's going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. So they just need to see a little bit more out of their role players, and injuries have been impacted them a bit. From the Avs point of view, their goaltender is not as great, Campbell, depending if he's healthy or not. So that could be the difference maker. But where the Tampa Bay Lightning have excelled is on these counterattacks. So I definitely think we're going to see goals. There should be more goals than in that Rangers series for sure, but we'll see what happens. I'm excited. I'm hoping 5, Avs in 5, but realistically, it's probably going to be Avs in 6.
Nice. Should be a fun series regardless. I think I'm going to go Avs in 7 on this one.
Nice, and we've got to get you a Cale Makar or a Nathan McKinnon top by the end of this as well, because Cale Makar has just been absolutely lights out to watch. Defensive players scoring goals, it's been great.
I do want an ice hockey jersey. I think I've got my eye on the Seattle Kraken one though. The new team.
Seattle Kraken's got a cool logo. I like their that kind of like neon bluish logo that they've got.
Yes, yeah. All right, let's move along and talk a bit of baseball and focus in on the Yankees, who are off to an absolutely ridiculous start. They're 45-16 through first 61 games. I think it's their best start ever through 61 games. They're on pace for something like 119, 120 wins, which in baseball is absolutely ridiculous. If you make it to 100 wins, you've probably got the top record in your league. So they're on a obscene pace. Aaron Judge is having an amazing season, playing like
career year.
Yeah, career year, conveniently in his walk year as well as he heads to free agency in the off season. So good for him. He's adding dollar signs by the day. Obviously baseball's got an enormously long season. We've played 61 games and we're not even halfway through the season, so there is time to go.
But this is the this is the wild part, though. Like, it feels like the AL East is done, like, already. Like, it feels like it's the Yankees. Like,
and
they've
it's
got
not
it.
an
Everyone
easy
else has to
AL
be.
East.
No.
You have Tampa Bay, you have Toronto, and you have Boston, who are all trying to win a championship this year. And you've just like the Yankees are 10 games clear of second place. And I think like 14 clear of the Red Sox, and maybe 12 of the Blue Jays or something. It's absurd. And
it's wild as well, because I remember sitting at the beginning of the season with you and Dave, and we're sitting here trying to like pick the winners, and I'm pretty sure we were all like Toronto, the Yankees team. If this was a team, 6-8 years ago, it would be great. But like they've got a lot of older players now who look like they're done. Shows what we know.
Shows what we know. Yeah, don't listen to us. And I told you to put money on the Seattle Mariners to win the title, and they've blown out this year. They're, I think, 6 games under 500 or something. So shows what we know. But yeah, I mean, it makes it quite exciting to watch them play every night, because you're sort of like thinking, how long can this run go on? Like, they just don't show any signs of slowing down. And certainly it makes me feel like living in New York, like I have to get to the stadium a few more times than I usually would over the summer, and try and get to see them, because I feel like we could be like witnessing one of the great baseball seasons.
Yeah, I love that. I've managed to go to probably one of the more boring games this season between the Yankees and the Red Sox, which was a pretty low scoring affair. And then, they're having like
I know
13 to 4 wins, and
they
hitting
hit
6
like
home runs a game.
Yeah, 6 home runs a game or something. It's it always seems the way that the way things go. But
it's going to be crazy though, because like obviously I remember that was right at the beginning of the season. I'm pretty sure it was actually opening weekend. It was the Saturday game, and we went in and we were talking. I don't think you were there, Si, but I was talking with a whole bunch of people. We went, and I was like, Yankees did the right thing by not, overpaying for Aaron Judge, and publicly showing what they were willing to pay for him. But like you said, holy shit, that's backfired. He's having an absolute monster year. He's leading home runs in baseball at the moment. What's he on now? Is it 23?
24.
Yeah, 24. Wherever he lands, even if he comes back to the Yankees, they're going to have to pay him so fucking much.
Oh, and I think that they almost have to at this point, because he's just like, he's the captain of this team now. He's the leader. They also put out a kind of a ballsy tactic after the negotiations by actually publicly disclosing what they offered Aaron Judge, which at the time was because they thought, and the public discourse was, that they'd made a fair offer to him going 1 year out from free agency, and everyone said, Judge is pretty ballsy to turn this contract down, and that's why the Yankees did that, to try and get the fans on their side. But I do wonder if Aaron Judge is a bit pissed off by that and feels like there's been a breach of trust, and how that'll affect them, their standing going into free agency. But I think Aaron Judge means so much more to the Yankees than he would to any other organization. Like, they have the judges' chambers seats out in right field. He's a Yankee, and they need to now pony up and pay for him. And it may well look pretty ugly on the 8th, 9th, and 10th year of that contract. But, if he turns around a few more of the seasons he's having over the next few seasons, then he's going to more than make up for that. So that's certainly going to be an interesting storyline to follow. But hopefully that comes after a 28th ring in New York.
Fingers crossed, or not, whatever. I don't really care. I just want to go to a World Series bet. I don't know, part of me almost wants the Mets to win one before the Yankees, just to kind of get a bit more crosstown rivalry going on here in New York. But
that's here to stay, though. That's here to stay now that the Mets are spending properly.
Yeah,
that's going to be good. All right, well, let's finish up with our new segment of Mount Rushmore. We had some good chat on the social media platforms after last week's episode, where we did the 4 Kiwis to make it in the US. There are a few people unhappy with our decisions, and got under a few people's skin, which is always good.
Hell yeah. I feel like people were angry that, in the same way, like I insulted somebody's mother because we didn't put Stephen Adams on our Mount Rushmore. And look, again, I'm going to say this. I reckon he's eventually going to get onto this Mount Rushmore. But at the moment, no rings, no all-star selections. He's done incredibly well for a Kiwi, 100% in the NBA. But, we didn't put him up there. So
he's right in the mix as it is anyway. And
100%.
He's certainly part of the conversation. But there are also 4 very worthy candidates that we did put up. But this week, in light of the NBA Finals series being in full swing, we're going to pick our Mount Rushmore of NBA Finals series. So the 4 top NBA Finals series in your view. So, Thwaites, have you got any no-brainers that stand out?
So I'm not going to go too far back. I'm probably going to stick within the last 20 years, just because I feel like you could go back. I'm sure there's probably a Chicago Bulls one in there. Maybe if we want to go, 30 years back and call one of those, the 6th ring Jordan got or something like that, or maybe the series with Michael Jordan's flu game. I would say one of the absolute no-brainers for me is the Celtics Warriors series, where the Celtics were down 3-1, came back, won it in 7.
2016.
LeBron James got the block on Iguodala, and then Kyrie Irving coming down, shooting that absolute clutch 3-point shot from the edge to get Cleveland their first NBA championship. I think it was absolute fire series. Loved it to bits. What about you, Si? You agree with me there?
Yeah, for sure. That was the one that stuck out. And again, I wasn't alive for a lot of those early NBA Finals series, and I just don't remember a lot of them because I didn't really follow basketball that closely when I was a lot younger. But certainly, if you're looking back last 15 to 20 years, that series there stands out big time. Being down 3-1 against that absolutely stacked Warriors side, and to come back and win that 4-3 is definitely up there. Another LeBron one, potentially, 2013. Spurs are up 3-2, 13-point lead late in the third quarter of Game 6, and the Heat turn it around and come back to win the series 4-3. What do you reckon about that, 2013?
Absolutely. I knew that one was coming as soon as you said it, and I was like, I can already see somebody on social media complaining that we're
too many LeBron ones.
Too many LeBron ones.
He was pretty good, and he was involved in a lot of them. So,
absolutely, 100%. You're 100% right. There was a great series. Obviously, any series that goes down to that, but that's when the Spurs were obviously, peaking again. Miami Heat was just awesome. And then we obviously got 7 games out of it, which is awesome. And then LeBron putting up 37 points, 37 points in Game 7. So that was absolute vintage LeBron James. Loved it.
Yeah. I think another one I'd point to would be 2010 and the Lakers beating the Celtics 4-3 and sort of, an older Kobe Bryant putting in a few strong performances against a pretty good Celtics side and winning that one. What do you reckon about that?
So this is when is this Paul Gasol still there? This was an interesting one, I think, because the Lakers at that time actually had a really, really good defense. I think Metta World Peace / Ron Artest was on that Lakers team at the time. There were a couple of games where they held them to 63 and 79 points, which I think was the final 2 games in that 7-game stretch. And honestly, Kobe Bryant was just at the top of his game. And this was against a big 3 of Boston, where it was Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce, I think that might have been one of their final years together, if not doing the title run, all three of them together before that was kind of split up, and they ended up heading towards Brooklyn Nets in that trade. But yeah, I mean, 100% agree with you. And who doesn't love a Lakers Celtics series? Exactly. You know, obviously like a big historic rivalry going on there. So absolutely love that one to bits. I'm going to break my own rule. I said I was only going to look back in the last 20 years. I'm going to go back slightly beyond that, and I'm going to say my fourth one that I'd put up there is that 98 series, that Bulls versus Jazz. Michael Jordan getting his sixth ring. Michael Jordan had that absolutely clutch shot. Scottie Pippen was just an absolute monster on defense. It was an all-timer. Absolutely loved it. You agreeing with me?
No? Yeah. See, I was like, you've got to have a Michael Jordan one in there, and I don't remember these ones, but I was just reading about them. I'm sort of intrigued by 1993 when they beat the Suns 4-2, because it just sounds like just a chaotic final series. Like you have the Bulls go up 2-0. Charles Barkley's playing for the Suns and putting up ridiculous numbers. Then the Suns win a triple overtime in game 3. Then Jordan has a 55-point game in game 4. And it just sounds like there are some absolutely ridiculous performances in that one. So I might argue for that one. What do you reckon?
It's got to be one of them. I feel you're right. I feel like we've got to put a Jordan game in here, and it's just hard. I think why I kind of went with the 98 one was I was just like, this is capping off the second three-peat, so that emotional side of it definitely comes into it more for me. But I don't know. It's probably a bit of a coin flip. It'd be interesting to see what people on socials think about those. But I still think that the absolute number one was definitely that Warriors Cavs game from 2016, because that was just absolutely incredible to me. I still can't get it out of my head that, you know, just absolutely stats, because that's when Steph Curry
Durant was and there Kevin, point, right?
And Durant was there, and that was the season that the Warriors finished 73-9.
That's right.
In the regular season, which is just incredible. So the fact that, you know, we constantly still see Kyrie Irving hitting that 3-pointer, the fact that they still show highlights of, you know, LeBron chasing down Iguodala and just absolutely just blocking it up there.
Kyrie's last minute 3.
Yeah. Also crazy as well to think back that Curry doesn't have an MVP, and I know we're not talking about, you know, the current final series with this, but, you know, I do keep forgetting that Andre Iguodala was an MVP on that Warriors team one year, and then obviously Kevin Durant.
Finals MVP, you mean?
Yeah. And then, you know, so it's still interesting that Steph Curry hasn't won that, but I don't know, this year will be the year, but that's definitely number one, 100% on Mount Rushmore. For me.
Yeah. This feels like a Bill Simmons podcast. You know, when he's like always in his podcast, he's like, this reminds me of like the 2002 Celtics team and when they did that shot and da-da-da-da. But yeah.
It's annoying because I always love talking about that Kyrie Irving dagger from the corner, but that Mavs game that we went to earlier this year against the Nets, basically
Spencer Dinwiddie.
Spencer Dinwiddie did that twice.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's so cool when it's your team, and it's freaking sucks when it's against you. It's just like you just storm out of the building. Unhappy, but there you go. So we've got the 2013. Just to recap, 2013. Cleveland Cavs beating the Warriors. Got the 2010, the Heat getting up over the Spurs. What was the third one we had?
Celtics Lakers
2010. So 2013 was the Heat game, and then one of the two Bulls games. We'll toss a coin on the 98 versus 93 ones, but we'll put all those up on our social media pages, and I'm sure you'll all tell us that we're wrong because we've only considered the last 20 years, but that's no problem. I'm sure there's some Larry Bird games from back in the day.
Yeah, we need to put an asterisk because I can already feel the hate that I'm going to get. I'm just saying the best ones from the last. I'm too sensitive for the hate, and this is why I need Dave here, just so I can send some abuse to Dave. So Dave, I'm sure you're going to listen to this podcast after enjoying your day off, mate. Get fucked, Dave.
Yeah. See you soon.
Absolutely. Looking forward to having you back on the pod Dave.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up. Big thanks to Michael Campbell before we dash for coming on the show, and good luck to Ryan Fox and Danny Lee and at the US Open. It'll be fun to watch those guys over the weekend, and we will talk again next week.
Absolutely. Go Avs.
Go the Avs. Yeah, talk next week. See you later.